Every year, the New Humanitarian publishes its much shared list of 10 crises that demand your attention now. This list highlights the places in the world where needs are rising, aid budgets are cut or insufficient, and where people feel forgotten by the international community. Over the coming months, our series of first-person stories will feature aid workers and people affected by one of the places on the 10 crisis list. In this episode, you will hear from Fatma Jaffar, a Yemeni humanitarian worker and the policy and advocacy lead for Oxfam Yemen. Fatma describes the dire humanitarian situation in her country and how Yemenis have kept each other alive through 9 years of war.
My name is Fatma Jaffar and I am a humanitarian worker. I'm from Yemen and I'm the policy and advocacy lead for Oxfam Yemen. They revolves around, being part of Oxfam, responding to our programs, projects, and reporting to different parts of the world what's happening in Yemen. I am from Aden, which is a coastal area located at the southern parts of Yemen, but I was born and raised in Sana'a, which is the capital of Yemen. Sana'a is a very beautiful city. The weather in Sana'a is amazing. Sana'a has very beautiful buildings. Culture here is beautiful, the traditional clothing, the colors that you see on the streets. The food is very nice. So I was raised here. I started my school. I finished my high school. I also pursued my college here in Sana'a. We have started to see changes in the country in 2011, back when the Arab Spring was happening and demonstrations were on the streets. Then we started to see some security tensions going around the country until 2015, when the war started in Yemen. And, our lives changed at that time. The airstrikes were mostly targeted towards the northern parts. So we were going through a blockade, the airport was closed, the ports were closed. So the flow of food and medicines was very limited. We had long hours of electricity cuts. We have changed our lives dramatically, especially the youth, because we had a lot of dreams and Yemen was starting to bloom. The private sector started to bloom in Yemen. People had stable jobs. We gather with families and friends. We usually remember the days before the conflict. Living in Sana'a, but being from Aden, we used to travel very freely. It's a 5-6 hour road trip and you're there in Aden, but now it takes you 18-19 hours with numerous numbers of checkpoints. Travel for us have become very challenging for the past 8 years, especially with females, because we have a lot of restrictions when it comes to travel. We must have a male family guardian to travel. So movement have become very limited, which, had implications on our life, but we are coping with it and we're trying to see how we can navigate those different challenges that we face. Some of us have family members and friends who are been abroad for the past 8-9 years and they can't enter the country. So families have been separated. Sometimes you meet with people, neighbors and friends who have lost their family members because of the conflict. You see that war have changed people a lot, especially that it has a lot of economic implications. We now do not see the implications of the conflict itself, but we see the economic impacts. I think the impacts, we see it, on people mainly. And because of the conflict, people lost their livelihoods. It's been 8 years and people do not receive, for example, their public servant salaries. People do not have a stable income. You see also families who lost their family members as a result of the conflict. And poverty has much stronger impact to us, bigger than war, because you walk around and you see poverty in people's eyes. Sometimes you meet teachers, you meet academics, you meet doctors who are begging on the streets, and it truly breaks the heart, because I know a lot of people that had decent lives, decent jobs, but are now living on the charities sent to them by family or friends or by the different charities that are operating in Yemen. Poverty, is something that cannot be tackled easily, especially by us humanitarians. You cannot solve this issue on an individual level. I think women and girls have been the most impacted because they have become the breadwinners of their family. I see now a lot of females working in jobs. Yemen is a very conservative community, so it was very rare for us to see a female, for example, working as a waiter in a restaurant. But because of the conflict, because of poverty, you see a lot of females, outside working on different jobs, trying to provide an income. The conflict had severe impacts on children, especially children who are living in rural areas. When their families do not have stable sources of income, unfortunately, a lot of them couldn't be enrolled in education. So more children are dropping out school and are forced into child labor. Because of poverty, there was a lot of negative coping mechanisms that the families had to create. For example, girls are being forced into early marriage, and this has increased massively because of the conflict. How Yemenis survived those long years of conflict with the absence of income, with the absence of peace, with the absence of basic means of survival was social cohesion, and this is what kept us going. Yemenis, have survived in a lot of times as a result of the patience and love that connects them with each other. A lot of families, have lived on loans from grocery shops, and this was something that we have seen in a recent survey that we have carried out, that most people are buying their food on debt. And this was held by the different conversations that we had with grocery shop owners, where we asked them, how can you be patient on someone not paying you back their debt? For sometimes it's a year and sometimes it's more. And they said that when a woman or a mother asks you for milk for her child, or a father asks you for a loaf of bread to survive, it becomes very hard and challenging to turn them away. And this is something that we witness on a daily basis. Neighbors, families, friends, how do they interact with each other? How do they support each other to survive? By providing food for each other, by providing clothes, by providing simple means of survival. I think what I am looking forward to is being able to travel freely in my country. I want to reunite with the family and friends who had to travel abroad to escape this conflict and to go to the sea again. And as a female, I want restrictions and limitations that this conflict have further imposed on us to be removed, and to just live simply and freely in my own country.
Fatma Jaffar is a Yemeni humanitarian worker and the policy and advocacy lead for Oxfam Yemen. Visit thenewhumanitarian.org to read the full list of 10 crises that you should pay attention to this year. The New Humanitarian also recently launched the Yemen Listening Project, which highlights stories from more than 100 Yemenis answering one question: how has the war impacted your life? The New Humanitarian is the only newsroom that specializes in covering humanitarian crises. Subscribe to our feed to stay in the loop on the new episodes from different parts of the world. This episode was produced and edited by Marte van der Wolf, with sound engineering by Mark Nieto.